Hey kidlets, here's my first attempt at a flipped lesson. This is stuff that you should know by now, and hopefully you'll have some idea of what that all means when I get done with this. The key to this is to try and figure out what is fascism. By now you should know a few things. All right, so please follow along. Make sure that you get this information as best you can. Okay, only have one party, one leader. In the case of Germany, obviously that was Hitler. In all of these states, they're going to demand total obedience, nothing but obedience. Okay, in order to get that obedience, going to make sure there's only one idea or a few ideas through the process of censorship. They're going to censor books. Right? That's where this whole concept of book burning comes in. It's not new. The Han Dynasty did it much earlier. And they preach extreme nationalism. That's waving that flag a lot and making sure that everybody agrees with where you're waving it. Oops, I left one of those out. Please notice that you have to have a very large military, and that makes sense because you're planning on going out and killing a lot of people. That's part of being a fascist. Next one.
Right, yeah. Right, of course. Yeah, you don't go to the door these days. You have people you comply with.
Okay, let's go to record. All right, this is the place where you try and figure out who is who. Please be able to fill in that Mussolini's from Italy. Make sure you understand Franco from Spain. The big guy, the big totalitarian, the big fascist is Hitler by far, and the totalitarian is Stalin. Don't get this confused. The top three guys are going to be your fascists. Stalin is a communist, but he is also using the same methods and the same ways to maintain control. In this section of Who's Who, I want you to try and be able to identify these guys by what they look like. Please notice the form of dress that all of them have, and also look for all the symbols that identify that they're dictators and totalitarians. Ready? Set? Raise your hand when you think you know what's going on.
Oh, yeah. At the castle.
Very good. Good again.
Right.
Right, there's a variety of groups that you should know as well. You need to make sure that you're paying attention to all sorts of groups rather than just the leaders, because without the power of certain people behind them, they don't really go very far. All right, so ready, set, raise your hand if you know this. Just kidding, you're at home, you don't have to raise your hand. Who are the black shirts? All right, if you're not familiar with it, you need to get this information down, and you need to make sure that you understand those were the supporters of Mussolini. Okay, it's really important for you to have that as his group. The stormtroopers were Hitler's. Okay, understand that they were not elected officials. They were not the military. They were people that simply were extremely zealous. They were fanatics that followed the political party line and admired all of these rulers. Right, and then later on, the creation of Nazis is where you'll get your political party. All right, this was the National Socialist German Workers' Party. So even though they use the word socialist in here, it wasn't socialism. All right, this is the big lie by Hitler. Right, and this is the fascist party, the 20, that was the one that Hitler belonged to. Right, there's a whole variety of terms that you should know as well. The terms are pretty logical things, but if you haven't got them yet, please make sure you take some notes on this as well. All right, this thing looks like a bent cross. It's a symbol of Hitler's Nazis. Hopefully all of you have seen this and can identify it as a swastika. Okay, literally, this book meant My Struggles. It's written by Hitler after the beer barrel putsch, where he tried to overthrow the government, was arrested, put in jail, people like Rudolf Hess and others were with him. It's Rudolf Hess who actually writes the book. Hitler dictates the information. Right? He talks about not only what the master race would be, but he talks about also things like syphilis. I mean, he just thought he knew everything about everybody. All right, so this is the Bible of the Nazis, or this is the book that they will follow. Bible's probably not necessarily what they would use because they were anti-religious. So Mein Kampf, all right, it means my struggle. Name of Hitler's secret police should come to mind when you see it. Should be the Gestapo. The Gestapo will not necessarily be dressed like this. What you're looking at here are the SS. Right, you'll know them because they're going to have a death head on their screen. Right, the Gestapo you're going to find is dressed in leather. Right, notes for the unknowing. You need to write down some of the things that Hitler did as a dictator. Again, if you don't know these, please take some time to stop and take the notes on this piece. You have to ask yourself why it's important to ban political parties. If you ban other ideas, then there's nobody to disagree with you, and you can stay in power even longer. Right? Hitler's not going to be wanting any kind of disagreement on the policies that he's established. He's going to use the secret police, the Gestapo. He's going to rebuild the army, and that should be War Machine down on the bottom, not War Amchen. Okay, that's a typo on my part. How do you feel about the Jewish people? Hitler's going to blame the Jews. He's going to scapegoat them. He's going to use them as the target people when he wants to change policy or when things aren't going wrong. He's going to find 1% of all Germans were Jews. And so this is a very small population. And they had been in Germany for a long time. And many of them saw themselves as Germans and then Jews. So they were both. They saw themselves as citizens. And they were welcomed in other countries like Poland by Casimir the Great. And you'll find that out later on when we watch Schindler's List. All right, but what you have here is a whole piece of anti-Semitism. Again, this is why he was able to do the things that he was able to do, because he's going to also turn these people into the slave labor. When you don't pay anybody, your economy can get real healthy real quick. Now, how do you do this gradually? Because it's going to be some people are going to react poorly. You pass a series of laws. The laws that are passed by Hitler are called the Nuremberg laws. All right? And some of the big ones that come across are these. Jews cannot marry non-Jews, and so that's outlawed right away. In a Jewish home, the only music that you're going to hear being played is going to be something that's they can't play non-Jewish composers. They can't play Wagner. They can't play Mozart. They can't play Beethoven. So you're not going to hear that stuff. It's one of the ways that you can find other people who are different from you, because the music coming out of their house and out of their open windows is going to be by non-Jewish composers. All right, and what you have also is that the hospitals will eventually close to Jews, so they can't teach in schools, they can't use their banks, they can't work and be doctors in hospitals. And then they resort to the final step, which is to start placing everybody in categories, and the first category will be yellow stars. This goes back to the medieval time periods. This was done in 1100 CE. All right, so it's not something new, it's something old brought forward by Hitler. Kristallnacht. In German, crystal means glass, Nacht means night. So this is the night of glass, the night of broken glass. Being broken obviously means that this is going to be a disastrous moment for somebody. And in this case, it truly is a policy across the German country to go out and encourage violence against Jews. It occurs on November 9th, 1938. Hitler has been in power since 1932. He has systematically been going about breaking the ability of the Jewish population in Germany and anyone that's different to give him any kind of grief. And now what he's doing is he's going out and he's going to literally begin some of what will later be known as the final solution. These laws, the Nuremberg laws, allow for Kristallnacht because he goes out and he doesn't go himself, but he sends out the stormtroopers and anyone, the German army, and they go out and literally destroy synagogues, the temples of the Jews, and the businesses of Jews. You know that they're Jewish synagogues because they're identified as such, and you know the same about the businesses because they've been forced to put Judah on the windows, or they've been forced to put a yellow Jewish star on the door or the windows as well. So it's pretty easy to go out there and destroy everything in sight. Right? And there will be killings and death at this time. No one who was arrested for, or, I'm sorry, the only people arrested were Jews, and no one was arrested for the murders that occurred that night against the Jews. All right, so they had no civil rights at this point. They're already being treated as non-citizens in Germany. Right, you can go to the source reading page 645 in your textbook. That'll help you a little bit if you need to know some more. Right, how did Hitler break the Treaty of Versailles? He's going to do this in a variety of ways, and this is how we're going to wind up in World War II. Okay, the first thing he's going to do in 36 is he goes into the Rhineland, which is the area bordering France. He decides to take that area, and even though people will complain, absolutely nothing is done at the League of Nations. You should know by now that the League of Nations has no ability to do anything. In 1938, Hitler ignored the treaty again and invades Austria. He's looking for Lebensraum, looking for that living space that we've talked about, and once again, in uniting all of these German-speaking people and taking Austria, the British and the French do nothing. Okay, this is the third part of this is Czechoslovakia. This will be done at the Munich Pact. All right, this is a treaty that the British agreed to, and they give Czechoslovakia to Germany, to Hitler, as a part of appeasement. All right, appeasement means that you're given to this guy, hoping that that's enough. What the reality is, after these three pieces, Hitler thinks he can go anywhere, and he's not done. They think he's done. These guys, Germany's ready for war because Hitler has spent a great deal of time upping their military and their factory system and creating a whole source of military hardware. Right, the British and the French, although they have the hardware for this situation, which is going to be World War II, they're not really emotionally ready for it. Right. Now, how do you go to war and make sure that Russia doesn't come and blast you out of the land to your east? You sign a secret treaty with them. All right, and this is the pact that goes with the secret treaty. The last part of this is important because this treaty allows Germany to invade Poland. Russia invades from the east, and they divide Poland up at this point and take it as part of their not empires, I would say their country. All right, and as dictators, they can do such.
Yeah. As opposed to calling a,
What's the spark? Think back to World War I. The spark in World War I was the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand by a Serbian nationalist who was looking to have self-rule in Serbia and get himself and his fellow Serbians removed from the Austria-Hungary dual monarchy. All right, this is a little bit different here. Right, here we go into Poland. And it's the invasion of Poland, which is an ally that creates these two sets of powers, the Axis on one side and the Allied on the other. Right, it winds up by the end of World War II that there are 48 other nations that join on the side of the Allied powers.
right, she has her moments, yeah. It's not just, otherwise.
Okay, if you have any questions, email me so that I can find out what you need to know. And hopefully, this is just my first attempt at this. I think my ability to speak is probably not so good, but let's see how it turns out.